And it comes through from Australia. They have been doing, the exploration there. They have funded that. But the news of it has attracted the attention of China Energy, which I didn't realize was that big. I mean, it's like 20 times to 30 times bigger than Eskom. And they want to be involved with vanadium because vanadium is becoming closely associated with electricity. They are big in electricity, so they want to get that source of vanadium to make these vanadium flow batteries. And one of the beautiful things is the electrolytes in there continue to be rented. So very unusual for mining. You not just give your metal away, you get it back and you restore it and you rent it out again. So it's going to be a fantastic project out in Limpopo.
Well, Martin, thank you so much. Martin Creamer will be back with another edition of At the Coalface, same time next Friday. And that is all our time as well for this afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thanks to the production team for putting it together. I hope to be back here with you and hope everybody is back together on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend, and it's 1 o'clock. Here's Dineo Motaung with your latest news.
Thank you, Sakina. Top stories: 791 years in prison for Ekurhuleni serial rapist, and ANC to discuss Willis Mkhunu's resignation. A very good morning, good afternoon rather. The man dubbed the Ekurhuleni serial rapist Nkosinathi Phakathi will spend the rest of his life in prison. The High Court sitting at Palm Ridge on Gauteng's East Rand has sentenced him to 42 life sentences for rape. Phakathi was also slapped with 791 years for rape, kidnapping, theft, assault and compelling minors to witness a sexual act. Phakathi committed his brutal acts in the Ekurhuleni area between 2012 and 2021. He preyed mostly on school-going children, with the youngest victim being 9 years old. Acting Judge Lesiho Makolumakwe.
Count 118 life imprisonment, that's 118 rape, accused sentenced to life imprisonment in terms of section 51. Count 119 rape, accused sentenced to life imprisonment in terms of section 51. Count 120 sentenced to 5 years imprisonment.
We move to KZN now, where the ANC in the eThekwini region says it will lead a delegation to meet with former KwaZulu-Natal Premier Willis Mkhunu. Mkhunu earlier announced his resignation from the party. In a statement, he refers to a message he had written to some ANC leaders about his views on the formation of the Government of National Unity after the May 29th elections. In light of this, Mkhunu refers to what he terms as destructive criticism leveled against him for raising a view on ANC matters. ANC Secretary in the eThekwini region, Mosa Nciki, says while they respect Mkhunu's views, it is a huge loss to the party.
This is the organization of engaging and engagement, so we must allow this engagement to go on. And I still cannot accept this resignation. Believing that out of our discussion, we will have a way forward which is better than this letter, because this is not acceptable, especially at this moment in time. We're really not going to accept this as an organization.
In other news, Advocate Vuyani Ngalwana has argued that the parliamentary leader of the Umkhonto Wesizwe Party, Dr. John Hlophe, has a constitutional right to take part in the proceedings of the Judicial Service Commission, JSC. Ngalwana said this included the looming interview scheduled for next week. Ngalwana has submitted before the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg that Hlophe is a properly designated member of the JSC. He's representing Hlophe in the MK Party's challenge to the decision of the Commission to refuse to postpone next week's interviews. He argued before Judge Stuart Wilson for an interim interdict against the imminent JSC sitting.
We say that he has a constitutional right to participate in all proceedings, including the 7th of October proceedings, as a properly designated member.
And if you want to obey the full court's order, you've got two options. Either proceed without him or don't proceed at all. And your case is that they shouldn't proceed at all.
And we're not saying they must stop forever and anon. This is not an indefinite interdict. It's to stop until the cloud of uncertainty as regards the propriety and the constitutionality of the designation has been determined in Part B.
In the Eastern Cape, Community Safety MEC Xolile Nqatha has commended the police after their operation led to the fatal shooting of a 33-year-old suspect and arrest of a 19-year-old in Zolo. The deceased was a wanted suspect for cash and transit robberies and had a record of previously shooting a police officer. The incident happened yesterday after the suspect pulled a firearm when officers were arresting him. The MEC spokesperson is Makaya Komisa.
MEC Nqatha applauds police for showing the brazen criminals flames and is extremely delighted that police always emerge victorious when they are attacked by these brazen criminals. MEC says these incidents are sending a strong message to the criminals that police will defend themselves when attacked. He says SAPS is ready, they must bring it on.
Lastly, 3 former U.S. police officers have been found guilty of witness tampering following the death of a black man during a traffic stop in Memphis, Tennessee last year. Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley and Justin Smith were among 5 officers who punched, kicked and hit Tyree Nichols after he was stopped for alleged reckless driving. Nichols died 3 days later from blunt force trauma. Speaking outside the court, Nichols' father, Rodney Wells, expressed his satisfaction over the verdict.
We are all elated. We're all very, very happy that these guys have been put in jail. This is a long time coming. Yes. And justice for Tyree. So we're just so very proud that all of them are going to jail.
Recapping the top story this hour, the man dubbed the Ekurhuleni Nisilo rapist, Nkosinathi Phakathi, will spend the rest of his life in prison. The High Court sitting at Palm Ridge on Gauteng's East Rand has sentenced him to 42 life sentences for rape. Headlines at 1:30 for SFM News. I am Dino Mataung.
The reality is that 90% of South Africans don't save enough for retirement. This National Seniors Month, why not be part of the 10% who do? Choose an interest rate of up to 11.7% after 60 months with a Nedbank Electronic Optimum Plus account. Anyone 55 and over can open one on the Money app in less than 2 minutes. Go to nedbank.co.za for more info. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Back-to-back champions, the Buccaneers are only interested in lifting up their 3rd consecutive title. Meanwhile, Maroon and Gold, Stellies, want to ensure that black and white fans go to bed early. This is the MTN 8 final. Wafa Wafa. Catch the reigning champs Orlando Pirates up against Stellenbosch FC on Saturday, 5 October at 5:30 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Turn your lights down low and pull your window curtain. Oh, let your moon come shining into our life again. Yeah, ooh, it's been a long, long time. I get this message for you, girl, but it seemed I was never on time. Still I wanna get through to you, girl, on time, on time. Wow. I want to give you some love. I want to give you some good, good loving. Yeah, I want to give you some good, good loving. Turn your lights down low. Never, never try to resist. Oh no. Nah, nah, nah. Oh, let your love come shining in.
Loving you is like a song I replay every 3 minutes and 30 seconds of every day. And every chorus was written for us to recite. Every beautiful melody of devotion every night. This potion might, this ocean might carry me in the wave of emotion to ask you to marry me. And every word, every second and every third expresses a happiness more clearly than ever heard. And when I play them, every chord is a poem telling the Lord how grateful I am cause I know him. The harmonies possess a sensation similar to your caress. If you asking and I'm telling you it's yes. Stand in love, take my hand in love, God bless.
I want to give you some good loving. Turn your lights down low. Right now. And pull your window curtains. Right now.
And let your love come tumbling in
Right now.
into our lives again.
Step right now. Yeah. Ooh, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I got this message for you, boy.
But it seemed I was never on time.
Still I wanna get through to you, boy. On time.
Right now.
On time.
Right now.
I want to give you some love. I want to give you some good love.
Can you hear me?
It's like I want to give you some good love.
It's like
Good, good.
I want to give you some good loving.
Good.
yeah, right now.
I want to give you some good.
Right now.
It is the incomparable Lauryn Hill coming through with Turn Your Lights Down Low on this particular one. And in fact, this song is originally by her late father-in-law, the great Bob Marley and the Wailers, from the 1977 album Exodus. So she then obviously reworked it, remixed it with some new vocals, still featuring Bob Marley on that particular song, and re-released it in 1999. It went on to be a commercial success, peaking at number 1 in the UK R&B charts. And that is how we wrap up the week. We made it. It is a Friday. We've come to the end of the week. 5 for us, 0 on the scoreboard for this week. It did not take everything that we had. So I hope that you were pleased and happy with yourself, that you made it to the end of the week. The weekend lays ahead. And so we're going to ease you nice and slow into it. You know how we do on a Friday on this particular show. In fact, we kind of do this on a Friday, I think, throughout the station, where we just take things a little bit easy. And we're going to be in conversation with Siba Mtongana today, who is a internationally renowned chef. She is a culinary sensation, owner of Siba, out, of course, at the Table Bay Hotel in Cape Town. She's just come back with yet another, let's put it that way, yet another incredible award at the World Culinary Awards. That mantle is full of every kind of award that you can imagine. She walked away with Africa's Best Fine Dining Hotel Restaurant for 2024. So we'll be touching base with her. We also are going to be catching up with legendary soccer star Brian Beloy, and we're going to be touching base this time of the year. We know that he supports Pink Warrior, the Pink Warrior Foundation, which is a foundation that he co-founded with his incredible wife. They were, in fact, here around about this time last year on the show. sharing their journey, their family journey from her cancer diagnosis to treatment and ultimately beating cancer. And they are walking for her once again with the 170-kilometer walk against breast cancer. So we'll be touching base with him. For full access today, he is a radio and television presenter, part of the greater SABC family, and he's going to be joining me in conversation. A.B. DaCosta is going to be here after 2 o'clock. It's 1:15 on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM.
Spring is in the air, and it's almost time for SA Garden Day on Sunday, 20 October. Celebrate your garden with a tea party, a luncheon, or simply lying down with a good book. Invite friends, family, or neighbors to appreciate your garden. Visit gardenday.co.za for ideas and inspiration. And remember to upload your flower crown selfie to social media, the ultimate Garden Day accessory. Mark your calendar. SA Garden Day, Sunday, 20 October.
TS Galaxy Queens are chasing a vital win to breathe closer to the top 3 teams. However, TUT Matsatsanza want to have a good day in the office by grabbing full points. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. TS Galaxy Queens FC versus TUT Matsatsanza Ladies FC on Sunday, 6 October at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Undoubtedly, she's one of the most incredible success stories that have come out of the culinary world in South Africa. She's best known for her series, Siba's Table, on the Food Network. At last count, I don't know how many countries it had been syndicated in, but running well into the multiple dozens. And of course, she's also been at the helm of being the food editor of the iconic magazine, Drum Magazine. In fact, that's where she started off her professional career at the tender age of 22. She's since then gone on to do so many things, launching cookbooks, representing us in the world culinary stages, and coming back home with all kinds of accolades and awards, not only for her published cookbooks, but also for the work that she's done as a restaurateur. And last night was no different. Was it last night or the night before? Because, so much seems to have happened. It was no different. She walked away with the Africa's best fine dining hotel restaurant for 2024 at the World Culinary Awards for her restaurant, Siba, the restaurant at the V&A waterfront. And she's taken over that iconic space just on the footsteps of the Table Bay, and recently paid host as well to American former First Lady Michelle Obama. But that is just one of many people that have dined at Siba, the restaurant. Please, let's welcome Siba Mdongana, chef and owner of Siba. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, you know me too well, Bridget. when you took out the Drum Magazine at 22, I'm like, yeah, we've known each other for a very long time.
We really have. Are you still floating on high?
Oh, just landed. I've touched ground. I'm so happy to be home. After this, I'm going to go fetch my kids. We're going to be so excited to see mommy. So, yeah, just landed.
I wonder if they'll be more excited to see mommy, because it's become a family affair, what you and your husband Brian are doing. And anyone who follows you on social media also sees how you've really involved the kids in the business of building Siba, the empire. So I wonder, in part, yes, okay, we missed you, Mom. You were off in Dubai. But they were pretty... I'm presuming they were pretty invested in you winning as well.
They were. What they were concerned about was it silver or gold. So they'd be happy to know it's gold. So yeah, my boys are very competitive. So It's really lovely to see them grow. Leonardo is now 12. My first one is now 12. Soon is going to high school. So, yeah, very happy to be a mother to them.
I love it. And we're going to do this. Well, there's no real order to our conversation, but since we're on this motherhood theme at the moment, you actually you attended a seminar, a lunch for ladies not too long ago. I think it was on Women's Month, and you were asked, or you pointed out that people often ask you, is it possible? The number one question that you get is it possible to have a successful business or be a successful woman in corporate and still have a family? And I found your answer quite refreshing, because you said, yes, it is, but it all depends.
Yeah. It's so true, Bridget, because it depends on how much are you willing to sacrifice as a woman. But I also always fight that question because my husband is in corporate and he's an executive, and his hours are long, and sometimes he travels quite extensively. But he doesn't get this question where people ask him. He's got 4 kids with me. We share the kids. We married. We've got 4 kids. But he's never asked how is it like to be a man in corporate with 4 kids. But it's often the woman, of which I understand it's the environment in which or the communities in which we've grown up in or are in. But I do like to pose this question to men as well, to say that it has to be a fair affair for the woman as well, because majority of the time when that question is asked, it's usually when women often feel constricted or contrived or unable to be able to do both, having a family and having a career. So whatever that answer is, which in that instance was, it depends on you as a woman, on what do you prefer. Do you prefer to have to make the sacrifices of long hours, sometimes not being around with your children, with your family? Is that what you'd be okay with? And if it is, then you can go for it. But I've gone for both because I knew that would be what would fulfill me. I would not have been as happy as I am if maybe I had limited myself to only 2 kids, whereas my dream had always been to have 4 kids. But the difference is I don't work for someone. I work for myself, and therefore I can curate my time according to what the needs of my families are. Majority of the time, it's not always possible, but majority of the time I'm able to do that. So I know it's not as easy for majority of other women out there who are in corporate because their time is for their companies. But I'm also quite grateful for many other companies that are making it easy for women. For instance, there's some companies who would have a space for like a mini creche for kids, while some children are for the kids, or they would allow flexible hours. Thank goodness for COVID. I know it's such a weird thing to say, but it allows like a flexibility in terms of hours, which we never had before.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, you make valid points because, even in light of the work that we do, and it now sits in the back of my mind, in light of the work that we do and the kind of engagements we often find ourselves in as women entertainers and creatives, I count obviously culinary chefs in that space as well. It was brought to my attention a few years ago in a panel discussion, exactly the point that you've made. And I often, bounce back to it on this show to say it is an unfair expectation that women are always having to answer this question of balance, no matter how it's phrased, because they don't raise these children alone. They're not in these families and partnerships alone. And the sooner we recognize that there's a role for the male partners to also play, there's a role for us to ask Brian, well, Brian, how do you show up for Siba? How do you support her on her worst days? Or how do you pick up the slack around the house? It's only then that we start shifting the narrative. But fortunately for you, not only do you have a phenomenal partner in marriage and a phenomenal partner in your parenthood journey, but you also have a phenomenal partner in supporting your business. And I don't know if I'm right in my assessment, but I get the sense that Brian, he supports without imposing.
Yes, that's definitely who Brian is, and he's happy to to let me shine and to be there in the background without even wanting any recognition. For instance, after this is all I say, you don't have to mention me, but I'm like, I cannot mention you because you've been such an incredible part of my success. And often this is what women who would come to me for advice would say. And what I would advise is that, you have to marry well. You have to have a partner that will not be intimidated by your success and will push you forward and will want you to thrive, and rather than to restrict you to just being there for them and the family, etc. I call him sometimes my Minister of Finance because there's been many adventures where I've had to, loan money from our family fund, but also knowing that it has to come back because we've got a rule in our house that the business can't eat what is ours, but rather it must add to what we have. So that's, I'm very lucky in that sense.
I love that. And, and I don't want us to be misquoted when we speak of you must marry well. Let's elaborate on that a little bit, because these young ones, when they listen and they dip in and then they go, Siba said.
You're 100% correct. Thank you for bringing that to light. By marrying well, I mean you need to be with someone whom you can build with. And sometimes you don't necessarily have to find the person having what you aspire to have, let's say a rich man, etc. It could be someone you grow up with, which is the same for myself and Brian, and many other great couples that we've met along the way who are incredible together. You marry well by marrying your best friend. You marry well by marrying your lover, someone who you can trust, that even in bad times, let's say you've had a huge argument and you are in two opposing parts and you're not talking and you're not communicating, but you can communicate by virtue of being friends. You are able to set your differences aside as husband and wife, and you are able to be together just as friends. Or it is another side by marrying well is being able to marry someone who's not going to, let's say, give you all the money but don't want you to work, whereas you want to work and you want to express yourself in terms of your career and to grow, etc. So you have to marry well in that sense. You have to marry someone who can support your vision, but also equally you must be a contributor. I believe as a woman in being a contributor. You have to also equally invest in them. You have to be there when they've gone through hard days at work and it's hard decisions and they're highly under pressure. You must be able to just bring the food and just lighten up the mood and not, like for instance, I know when he's had a hard day and I won't ask him like, Aibo, why did you come home so late today? Because I know there's Shuba office scene. It's hard in the office. So I'm not going to add unnecessary pressure on him by being petty, etc. A great meal. I know exactly what he's going to have and for him to eat, to just bring that comfort and that love he needs in order to make sure to know that at home he's loved, he's appreciated, he's needed, he's wanted, and it's his space of safety and a space of where he can just be, take off his stuff and be you. Yeah.
I love it. I love everything about it. But of course, I'm a huge fan. And we're going to continue our conversation on the other side of this with the international culinary star, Siba Mtongana, who has just come back home having won Africa's Best Fine Dining Hotel Restaurant for 2024 at the World Culinary Awards, adding to a mantle full of awards of recognition for the work that she's put into building her culinary business. And of course, we know that she is the owner and proprietor of Siba the restaurant, which is located at the V&A waterfront, and Siba's Deli, which also opened its doors last year, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a quick pause here for Dineo Mutawung, a voice I haven't heard in a long time, to bring us the headline news.
Thank you very much, Bridget. Good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 1:30. Some of the victims of serial rapist Nkosinati Phakathi have expressed joy at the lengthy prison term landed to him today. In other news, Eastern Cape Education MEC Fundile Kade has confirmed the province's readiness for the upcoming matric exams, and several overcrowded tourist sites in China have issued calls for locals to stay away during peak periods. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
She is the lady behind the super successful My Table, which was her first cookbook, and it did incredibly well. And of course, then she collaborated with her son Lonwabo, and together they brought out Siba Let's Cook with a beautiful, youthful effervescence to it. Siba Mtongane joins me now, chef and owner of Siba, the restaurant. And let's talk a bit also, Siba, around the influence that your parents have had in your life, because even though they weren't people within the culinary spaces and they weren't people who were creative by what they did 9 to 5, they still very much tapped into that creative flair and the passion that lay within. And I came across an article where you were just sharing about you as a young child, the youngest of the siblings, watching the dynamics between your dad and your mom, and the love language between them that almost was magnified in the kitchen and through his deeds in the garden.
Yeah, it's like when I think of them, I smile. Like, when I think of my mom and dad, I really smile. Dad, but I'm the last born of 6 kids, and I can confidently say call it a lat lameki or an oops baby. They thought it was finished, and I made my way into the world. So I got to experience them when they were quite tender.
Yeah.
And my dad loves gardening. Even to this day, he still does gardening, and that was his love language, where he would provide the most beautiful vegetables, greens, and lots, like an assortment of produce for my mom, and my mom would then cook it. And I loved how that communication was between the two of them, because it really inculcated something in me which I never thought would be a thing now. They've always known that I would be, I'll be great in the kitchen, whether I'd be cooking for my husband or for my family, etc. But never in a million years did they think I would take it up as a career. And in actual fact, I've said the story so many times. They were so upset that I chose food as a career, because it's like my mother felt like, didn't I teach you to cook enough at home? Why would you want to go to be taught to be boiled eggs elsewhere? So she didn't. She was afraid that I would work for. Given with the time in which they grew up in, and she thought I would work for a white woman. That was her fear, somewhere, and I'll be in the kitchen toiling all day. Never in her wildest dreams did she think I would be successful with my own restaurant and so on. I think it was such a huge privilege for her to have seen me succeed before she went to be with the Lord. She passed on a few years ago. And it was such a relief for me that she saw me succeed in the magnitude in which I have, because I knew it wasn't an easy decision for her to allow me to do what I wanted to do, which I was very grateful for, because I know I could have been a great lawyer, but I don't think I would have been as happy as I am with what I'm doing now.
Oh, I love that. And I love the fact that, she got to witness and glimpse, as you say, your successes and the story unfold. And no doubt she she's sitting there in the kitchen counter every single night watching on. You said that you don't want to look back one day when you are 80 and have regrets, or at very least you want to have as few regrets as possible. It takes a lot for a person to say that, and I oftentimes find that it's people that have that daring spirit, people who dare to dream and dare to go after, are often the people who realize that, seeing your last days, having not done the things you set out to do, would be the biggest regrets of life.
Yes, I think being a person of faith always gives you a sense of knowing what you want to live as either a legacy or want to live on here on earth or it beyond the earth. So I've always had a sense of almost standing. I mean, like if I speak to my English friends, they always think I'm celebrating death. That they'll see it in that way, which I say to them, no, you don't see it in a pessimistic way. You see it in a positive way. You want to be at the end of your life, look back and be able to know that you did what you were sent in this earth to do, which is in my faith or in my case. Or if, for instance, you're not a person of faith, you did what you had intended for yourself to do in this earth. And I'm an avid reader. I love reading. I read people's stories, books, business, spirituality, etc. And it was actually Jeff Bezos who said this, and when he said it, it just spoke to me because he gave me words to articulate it because that's always how I had felt. He spoke the exact same words and said, when people think he's doing too much, he often has this analogy and says, if he were to sit at the end of his life and think, what are the things he would regret? And he has lots of regrets, then he would know he did not take enough audacious steps. So he's able to take the audacious steps because he doesn't want to live with regrets when he's older. And there's nothing much he then can do. And when he said that, I was like, that's me. That's how I've always thought of things. But I just didn't have the right words to express it or to explain them. And yeah, that became my explanation of why I'm not afraid of making big mistakes. Not big mistakes, rather, but big decisions. But I'm also not afraid anymore to make mistakes because I've come to learn that you will make mistakes.
Yeah.
Mistakes are part of the process, and one mustn't be afraid of them. But rather, everyone will tell you if you are into books, self-development, etc. You rather fail fast. Learn the process very fast and then get on with it as quickly as you can. So that's my perspective of that.
Fail fast and fail forward is what they always say, right?
That's what they say. Oh, yes.
Fail fast and fail forward. What has been the one mistake that has served you well? Because I feel like if we look at some philosophers, as you've just said, there's lessons in some mistakes, right? And some mistakes actually serve the greater purpose and the greater dream better. When you look back, you go, had it not been for that blunder, I might not have made that decision, or I might not have taken that step that ultimately got me the best result.
In 2019, we were set on opening a restaurant up in Johannesburg. Joburg was my first spot I wanted to open my restaurant in because of many reasons. My biggest market is in Johannesburg, etc., etc., etc. And it just felt right for me to start there. However, we had invested so much money, and there was a glitch in starting, and the glitch was about 3 months period, which was terrible at the time. However, we then decided that okay, let's take the knock, and then let's start April, of the following year. Yeah. And April of the following year was 2020. Now, the glitch that had happened was a saving grace, because should I have gone ahead in the time in which we had earmarked for opening in Johannesburg and then been hit by COVID in the manner in which it had, and without even ever being able to foresee it, I would have lost so much money and energy and time, and I would have been, there's mistakes and small failures, but then there's like ones you don't want to go through, and I felt like I was saved from that. So I always think sometimes that the things we think are delay are actually protection, and that for me was a literal sense, protection.
Oh, wow. Beautiful stuff. As we begin to wrap it up, are your culinary heroes still the same, or have you added some new names to sit alongside Jamie, Nigella, and Delia?
Oh, my gosh. That there's Martha Stewart. To that list, there's There's Houston to that list. There's Gordon. I've gone to love Gordon Ramsay. When I was young, I was definitely a Jamie fan because it's very family oriented and so on. But having watched Gordon and what he does, particularly in the restaurant space as well, and also what he does on telly and with his family, I've grown to really open up my heart to him. So yeah, definitely have grown. There's a whole lot more, but those are the ones I'm happy to share.
I was never surprised at your love for Nigella. Nigella, I see a lot of similarities, and she was a firm favorite of mine at some point as well. Tell me this, in our final moment, when did you know that Siba, the chef, was famous?
Ooh. When did I know that Siba the chef was famous? I think, Bridget, for me, I think I was quite privileged to have been exposed or have fame or influence at a very young age when Cooking with Siba was sold to the UK, and then I got a call from Food Network. I knew that would be a game changer, and that would be, something that will literally change the prediction of my career. So I would say I've had pivotal moments where I knew, okay, things have shifted, and that was one of the shifts. But opening up a restaurant was equally the same because it was a very bold decision because restaurants are hard work. But at the same time, when we won the World Culinary Award last year, and we've maintained it this year, I was like, yeah, hands up.
I love it. Siba Mtongana, congratulations once again on everything that you have built, yourself, your team, your incredible family, your partner, onwards and upwards for you. It can only but get better. That was chef, author, and of course proprietor of Siba the restaurant, Siba Mtongana.
Put a spring in your step with the Espresso Morning Show.
That's right. Join us for fresh ideas, blooming trends, and vibrant tunes that are sure to brighten your day.
Discover the best ways to enjoy this season's beauty, from garden tips to spring fashion.
Come on now. Plus, get inspired with lively interviews and my favorite, the latest in entertainment.
Basically, start your mornings right with us. That's weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3.
Dis-Chem makes healthy living easier with the best deals on the widest range of supplements. Enjoy the savings of being a benefit card member and get a 25% instant discount on all Biogen probiotics. Buy 3 A Vogel 225-gram Multiforce alkaline powders and only pay for 2. Get 25% off all Iberogast oral liquid 9-herb treatment products. Healthy living offers now on until 13 October, in-store and online. Only at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
The world's best football league makes its return to S3. Will Arsenal finally win their first title since 2004? Or will Man City continue their dominance of the league and win their 7th title under Pep Guardiola? Will the Dutchman in Erik ten Hag and Arne Slot have something to say as Man United and Liverpool step in to contest for the title? But it's not only about winning the title. For some of the 20 teams, it's a chance to improve on their performances from last season. While for others, it's the battle to avoid relegation and stay in the top flight. Every team has a point to prove. This is not just football. This is a masterpiece being played out every weekend. Channel your best sport with the English Premier League. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on S3. Open up.
SMS SAFM now on 41391. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
So MTN South Africa, together with the Department of Basic Education and the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, on the 6th of August 2024, announced the launch of the Connecting Every Child program. Remember this? We spoke to them about it, calling on South Africans to join the drive to donate 30,000 devices to bring connectivity and the promise of a brighter future to children in schools around South Africa. We thought we'd then catch up with MTN Foundation General Manager Arthur Makuva and find out from Arthur how things have fared. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Bridget. Thank you so much for having me, and a good afternoon to your listeners.
Only a pleasure. All right, let's just backtrack. Maybe, for those one or two listeners that were busy with other commitments on the day we were speaking around this campaign. Let's share some insights about the initiative Connecting Every Child.
Okay, no, thank you so much, Bridget. I think a key, and which is really a thorny issue, in our country, is really the issue around education. How can we be able to accelerate and support our learners to perform better? And with that, taking into cognizance the importance of technology in making sure that the learners actually they can do very well. So our Connecting Every Child campaign, it's nothing isolated to our key mandate in terms of really addressing the issues of education, as well as utilizing technology, to accelerate your digital educational content, as well as the reach, so that at least all the learners, irrespective of where they are, they should be able to enjoy the modern connected world, where they can be able to learn through these technologies. So Connecting Every Child, actually, it is a campaign that we are really seeking support, the call to action to get more and more corporates, different OEMs out there to say, look, we have a challenge. Let's tackle this challenge of making sure that we get more and more of our learners connected to digital devices, because we understand the importance of technology in really driving and transforming the lives of our learners. So for us, that was really the drive, and then to make sure that we can collect as much as we can. We're aiming and targeting around about 30,000 tablets, to collect.
Yeah.
Which we like to believe that, yes, others they might say it's an ambitious target, but for us, it is not an ambitious target as such. It is something that really is a challenge that we think and believe that we can be able to live up to.
Yeah. Let's talk, Arthur, about the response. How has the response been from corporates and individuals since August?
It has been just, 3 months, I think, as you said, we launched this program on the 6th of August. So the response has been positive, I must say. We have seen different corporates coming on board to really say, to pledge their support for this initiative. Just to mention one or two of some of the partners, your Huawei, your DNI, as well as your Hisense. That say, look, know what, we're already putting some numbers forward actually to making sure that this campaign actually sees the light of the day. So I must say, it's been 3 months now. We're just going to be 3 months in the next 2 days. So we have seen a good response. I think the response has been great. But I think what was very intriguing and very interesting, I must say, Bridget, is that we are starting to see individuals, in their private capacity, coming forward and say, look, know what, I have this much that I can pledge. I have this tablet that was used by my sister that I want to give it to you guys so that we can be able to make sure that you meet your numbers and make sure that at least around about 600 schools in our country that are really within the quintile 1 to 3 can at least see and have access to these technologies. So for us, I think the response has been encouraging. We are really excited, and then we think actually there is a home for this type of a project in our communities.
Yeah. I mean, technically, Arthur, I don't know if we have the same maths teacher, but technically, you say 3 months, I say it's been 2 months. So we still have a little bit of time. As much as 30,000 seems like an ambitious target, but it is something that I fully believe can be met with sort of just the collective effort of everybody who answers the call of what you are trying to do, along with the other stakeholders, Department of Education and Department of Communications.
No, very true, Bridget. I think that's really spot on. I think currently, if you look into the stats, I mean, if we are having over 12 million learners that have no access to digital tools, not even resources, just to aid learning and teaching experiences, that on its own, I think it is really a challenge. It's something that is concerning that all of us, I think, would need to really step up and be able to see how then do we address this. So this type of an initiative, I must say, it really answers to this. It really lands well within our communities.
Yeah.
And even the Department of Education, I must say provincial, I'm doing the roadshows within the provinces with the Department of Education. And I've seen that there's still a good uptake and there's a need. All the provinces are talking about modernization. We cannot modernize and leave the learners behind. So for us, we see ourselves really in the forefront in assisting the department as well to meet its goals, as well as us really preserving the talents, the skills that our learners can be able to get through the technologies that we'll be installing in the community. So we see this as a very important initiative.
Are there any considerations of extending this campaign?
Look, Bridget, you know what? I must say, with the kind of response that we have been receiving, which has been great and very encouraging, and the need that is still there within our communities, yes, the answer is simply yes, we are continuing. We are already looking into the learners that are busy preparing for the exams to say, look, how can we be able to support with this kind of initiative? Next year, as we start off the first half of the year, we'll be talking to the Back to School campaign, where again we'll be driving those awareness and making sure that this challenge actually remains. So we're still continuing with this project because it is not really an isolated program on its own. It is really embedded within the core flagship of the foundation, where we're talking about how do we improve performance of our learners through the use of technology. So for us, we are continuing. We are really excited. We're still looking forward to meet many corporates. We have seen some of the corporates, instead of just really going directly to our anchor sponsor on the platform to do the pledging, they call us directly, and we've been engaging with them. They're even coming up with 6 solutions that talks to really addressing the issue of technology in our schools. So we are really going ahead. We are moving forward. It's not the end, and the detail is not really one off intervention, but it is really something that is ongoing, that we believe that actually it could really help the generation to come in making sure that we have a very competent digital techno learners in our communities.
Well, I mean, listen, I said it the first time that we spoke that this is definitely an incredible initiative indeed. Audacious, but well worth it. And no doubt you'll not only reach 30, but surpass 30 and continue to make lasting impacts within our communities to students who really, really need to be connected. No child left behind is, I think, the underpinning message of this particular one. So to yourself and the team out at MTN, well done on this one. That was Arthur Makuba, who is the MTN Foundation General Manager, and that campaign connecting every child extended well into 2025. So you can be a part of it. And ensure that every child in every community is connected and not left behind. It's gone 10 past. It's closer to 5 to the hour, if we're being honest. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll quickly catch up with legendary soccer man Brian Baloy.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I was recently diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome. Patients like myself go through a long and strenuous journey to get a stem cell transplant. I am grateful for the support I've received as I wait for the call that my donor has been found. This Sunflower Month, be a lifeline to patients like myself by registering to become a stem cell donor. You can save a life by registering at dkmsafrica.org.
Attention all caregivers of children. Are you and your children's vaccinations up to date? Vaccinations can prevent serious diseases and prevent hospital stays. Protect your little ones by getting them vaccinated. Don't wait until it's too late. Talk to your healthcare provider today about getting your child vaccinated against serious childhood diseases. Because health matters. This message is brought to you by Sanofi and the National Department of Health.
Friday nights in Gqeberha will never be the same. Bafana Bafana are taking on the Congo at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium on the 11th of October 2024 at 7 p.m. Come early, dressed to support Bafana Bafana. Sit in our Guijo stand for a chance to win prizes. Gates open at 4 p.m. and tickets start from 60 Rand for adults and 140 for a family ticket. 2 adults and 2 children with special rates available at 30 Rand for children under 12. Scholars in uniform and students with student cards at all Ticket Pro outlets. If you can't make it to Gqeberha, catch the game live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 at 7 p.m. or visit sabcsport.com. For more details, visit safa.net and Bafana Bafana on X and TikTok.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, let's quickly catch up with legendary soccer man Brian Beloy, a co-founder of the Pink Warrior Foundation, and he's lending his support for Breast Cancer Month, the 170-kilometer walk against breast cancer to honor Pink Warriors. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, I would have asked if you were already en route, but it's one day too early.
One day too early, but thanks for having me. I mean, you had us last year. I came to with my wife.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No, it's only but a pleasure. I can hear that you're outdoors, Brian, so I'm thinking you either putting in the final oomph of training.
Yeah.
It's the final push of training.
Yeah, just running around trying to tie loose ends here and there, but
okay.
We're ready.
I love it. Let's talk about the Pink Warrior Foundation. For those folks who did not tune into our conversation last year, give us a brief context of the foundation and, of course, what led the family to put their weight behind breast cancer awareness.
So the Pink Warrior Foundation focuses on breast cancer awareness, focuses on the education and breast cancer and supporting women, especially in the townships and rural communities. And we, the reason for us having interest and having doing all that we do within the breast cancer space is Mrs. Beloy is a 2-time breast cancer survivor, and through her journey over the years and interacting with different women from different backgrounds, she decided she wanted to start something on her own where it focuses on education, and the reason being that 2 times, both the times that she was diagnosed, it was detected early. And as a family, we are grateful, and we know that early detection does save lives. So we just want to share that experience and share the knowledge with the public.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the 170-kilometer walk from Pretoria to Zabula Golf Estate. And this is something you participated in last year, and you're doing it again this year.
Yes. Last year, our journey started from Zabula all the way to Rosebank. And we had so much fun. When we started it being the first one, we were so nervous and thought, geez, at some point, just before we were going to start, a couple of days before, me and my crazy friends that got me into this, we started chatting and said, geez, what did you get ourselves into? But the most important is the why we're doing this. I think that's what kept us going last year, and that's what, we had so many challenges. Some of the guys, started having blisters, had to, soldier on with blisters, and some pushed muscles, but everyone is back, and, Silo Hatang, Somasio of Nelson Mandela Foundation, and a couple of friends that I played with, Chabulani Mendu, back again, and Santa Kubeka. And this year again, so most of the friends that are, it's mostly guys that I played with at Kaiser Chiefs, Rene Richard coming in. And a few other guys that will be coming in just for 1 or 2 days, like Stanton Ferry, like, Fabian McCarthy.
Yeah.
But it's all about just creating the awareness and just giving support to beautiful women, our mothers, our daughters.
Yeah. As we run out of time and wrap up our conversation, for anybody that wants to be in support and to cheer you guys on, what's the best way to do that?
We will be sharing all the journey throughout the week on my social and on Pink Warrior social. People that want to support, they can donate per kilometer that we're walking the 170. You can decide to donate 500 per kilometer, 100 rand per kilometer, or 1 rand per kilometer, whatever it is that people can donate, we'll appreciate. And and then on some of the days we'll be looking in live and just chatting to people and sharing our journey.
Wonderful stuff. Brian Beloy, we wish you the very best of luck, and please do pass our regards to the missus. And Brian will be part of that Pink Warrior Foundation walk, 170 kilometers between Pretoria to Zibula Golf Estate, and it's going to take them quite a lengthy bit of time. They've carved out a week to get this done, beginning on the 5th of October. And as you said, you can track them via the social media platforms via Pink Warrior Foundation, and donate 170 Rand or whatever you can per kilometer. It's all for a good cause, really, going towards breast cancer awareness and amplifying some of those interventions. It's gone 2 o'clock. It's time to catch up with the news.
Top stories: families react to Ekurhuleni serial rapist sentencing, and Eastern Cape education ready for matric exams. With the news, I'm Dino Mutaung. Good afternoon. Some of the victims of serial rapist Nkosinathi Phakathi have expressed joy at the lengthy prison term handed to him today. The High Court in Palm Ridge in Ekurhuleni handed Phakathi 42 life sentences, as well as 791 years imprisonment and 6 months for rape, kidnapping, theft, and compelling minors to witness a sexual act. He was found guilty on 93 counts of rape, 43 of kidnapping, and 3 for compelling children to witness a sexual act. Here's a family member of one of the victims.
Truly speaking, sithokozile, even though what that guy has taken from us, there is a void in our hearts, in our families. The joy that we used to have, seeing my families, it was just shattered. But we are so grateful. I want to say thumbs up. Kubo bonke amaphoyisa from all over.
In other news, a police constable has been arrested for allegedly stealing a bank card belonging to a hijacking victim. The officer was driving the recovered vehicle to the south of Durban for safekeeping. 11-year-old Zara Ramsamy died during the hijacking at a fast food outlet last month. The girl hid under the car during the incident, and the fleeing hijackers then drove over her, killing her. KwaZulu-Natal police spokesperson Robert Nechunda says the bank card belongs to Zara Ramsamy's mother.
When the hijacked vehicle was recovered in the Ketomena area, the same constable was called upon to drive the vehicle to the Malvern area. It was during that time that the constable got hold of the bank card and stole it. As such, the officer will be charged with theft and fraud for using the card and will appear in the Pinetown Magistrate Court on Monday, the 7th of October. The arrested police officer will also face internal disciplinary process proportional to the crimes he has been charged with.
Moving to the Eastern Cape, Education MEC Fundile Gade has confirmed the province's readiness for the upcoming matric exams. Over 117,000 full-time and part-time learners are poised to sit for the exams. As part of the department's push for excellence, the Last Push program has been launched to strengthen academic performance with a target of achieving an 85% matric pass rate.
For us is to intensify the product of maths and science, precisely because it's a gateway subject, not for the province, but generally for the nation. You would observe that we are a construction site as a province. A number of projects that are currently undergoing, which then means science and maths is going to be required extensively in the few years to come. So it's one of the major investments that we look in terms of the system that must be taken into consideration.
In Limpopo, a security service provider, Bravo Span, is accusing the Tzaneen municipality of not obeying a constitutional court order to pay for the services rendered. The company says it is owed more than 9 million rand for over 2 years of services. This has resulted in a number of security guards being laid off. Company owner Matimba McKay says the municipality terminated an agreement to render security services at the municipality. The municipality lost the matter in the Constitutional Court. They'd wanted the Apex Court to review the decision of the Supreme Court. The municipal authorities are yet to comment. McKay says the municipality must pay for services it received.
We employed people from our communities, aiming to uplift their livelihoods and tackle unemployment. Despite providing valuable services, we were not compensated, and the municipality showed indifference while we incurred costs for 2 full years. Unlike larger businesses, small businesses like ours lack the safety net to withstand such challenges, and this case deeply affected both our business and personal lives. This fight was about ethics, justice, and fairness. We stood firm against the unethical actions of municipal officials whose intent seemed to be to destroy our business.
Lastly, several overcrowded tourist sites in China have issued calls for locals to stay away during peak periods. China is currently celebrating a week-long national holiday with record levels of domestic travel. The BBC's Celia Hatton has the details.
A Chinese government social media push to let the scenery be for the guests comes as tourists are complaining of long waits and dangerously overcrowded facilities. Officials in charge of major sites are urging locals to act as good hosts by staying away from nearby hotspots, from Shanxi's Guanyin Temple to the Huangshan Yellow Mountain in nearby Anhui province. There's been a surge in travel following the pandemic, with 190 million domestic rail journeys planned for this week alone.
Recapping the top stories, some of the victims of serial rapist Nkosinathi Phakathi have expressed joy at the lengthy prison term handed to him today. The High Court in Palm Ridge and Ekurhuleni handed Phakathi 42 life sentences, as well as 791 years imprisonment, as well as 6 months. Headlines at 2:30 for SFM News. I'm Dino Motau.
Need a loan? Pay for what you need when you need it with a personal loan from Nedbank. And if you open a MyGoals Plus or MyGoals Premium account, you can enjoy 200 Rand cashback every month for the duration of your loan. That's 200 Rand every month to buy extra groceries or save for a rainy day. Visit nedbank.co.za and join the bank that's best for your loans. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Back-to-back champions, the Buccaneers are only interested in lifting up their 3rd consecutive title. Meanwhile, Maroon and Gold, Stellies want to ensure that black and white fans go to bed early. This is the MTN8 final. Wafa Wafa. Catch the reigning champs Orlando Pirates up against Stellenbosch FC on Saturday, 5 October at 5:30 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. You are listening to The Full Circle.
Games, changes, and fears. When will they go from here? When will they stop? I believe that fate has brought us here, and we should be together, babe. But we're not. I play it on. I may seem alright and smile when you leave, but my smiles are just a front, just a front. Hey, and I play it off, but I'm dreaming of you. And I'll keep my cool, but I'm feeling. I try to say goodbye and I choke. Yeah, try to walk away and I stumble, but I try to hide it. It's clear my world crumbles when you are not near. Goodbye and I choke. Try to walk away and I stumble, but I try to hide it. It's clear my world crumbles when you are not near. Here is my confession. May I be your possession. Boy, I need your touch, your love, kisses, and such. With all my might I try, but this I can't deny. I play it off, but I'm dreaming of you, babe. I keep my cool, but I'm feeling. I'm trying to say goodbye and not choke. Yeah, try to walk away and I stumble, though I try to hide it. It's clear my world crumbles when you are not near. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Try to walk away and I stumble, though I try to hide it. It's clear no love, world crumbles, no love, kisses and goodbye and I choke. Try to walk away and I stumble, though I try to hide it. It's clear my world crumbles when you are not near.
It is Macy Gray coming through with I Try. That is how we kick off 2 o'clock right here. We were just ngogolaring behind the scenes that we actually haven't heard from Macy in quite a while. I'm sure she's been dabbling in this, that, and the other. This particular song was actually co-written by her as well, and it was the second single coming out of her debut album, On How Life Is, which released back in 1999. And it was double-sided, by the way. It was double-sided in Japan, so it had the A-side and the B-side, taking it back to the days of vinyl. A lesser-known fact about vinyl. My old show in my old life at my old station was called The B-Side, which was a play on words on my name, but also a take on the kind of content that we did. But a lot of people don't actually know that vinyl had the A-side and the B-side, and the A-side was the side that had all the radio tracks, the fully mastered for radio airplay. This was the song and the record that officially the DJ would be playing. The B-side would have the extended version, the instrumental, and when hip-hop sort of started taking over in, 80s, 70s, the B-side became the most popular side to play underground. It became the side that got the street credit. And so oftentimes on the vinyls, the B-side tracks and the instrumentals became more popular than the A-side track because culture dictated that they were the ones. That's me getting into my hip-hop head. How are you doing, A.B. DaCosta?
I have all kinds of chills right now because of what I've just heard. That was beautiful to listen to.
How you doing?
I'm blessed. I'm present. I am here. It's good to see another day. Yourself?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm really good. It's good to see another day. Are you always positive? You're giving me positive vibes. Like you're always glass half full type of guy.
I try. When you get to the knowing that eventually it all passes.
Yeah.
All right? When you get to the knowing that everything happens for a reason, you walk different. You know, you talk different, and people would normally say, you know, you're a glass half full type of a person.
Yeah.
So I guess that's who I am. Yeah.
All right. I mean, we're going to double back to that when you get to the knowing, because I want to know more about the knowing and how we got there. But for those of you who maybe are just hearing the voice, I don't know, maybe for the first time today, and why, he's on our sister station, Radio 2000. He hosts the Vintage House on Fridays from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. and on Saturdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and Sundays from 10 p.m. to midnight. So basically you own weekend evenings. They belong to you.
There are people who call me Mr. Weekend.
Mr. Weekend.
I'm slowly getting there in terms of owning that, Mr.
Like
Weekend.
Eddie Zondi vibes, and you wait.
No, definitely not Eddie Zondi vibes. So I'm the party guy on Radio 2000, so I bring the party on Fridays and Saturdays. It's an old school party, but on Sundays we do things a little bit different. Maybe on Sundays you can get that Eddie Zondi vibe, except for that, what are you wearing? You won't hear it from me.
Don't shade the old schoolers.
Legend.
Let's get to how do we find ourselves in broadcast and radio? I know that you're a kid of Soweto, born and bred in Soweto. You're not a kid, I'm just saying. Yes, not a kid.
Oh, okay. No, I get what you're saying.
Yes.
I get what you're saying.
Born and bred in Pretoria.
Pretoria,
my bad. Born and bred in Pretoria, grew up there, and then you have a love for house music, have a love for radio. How do we find ourselves in this building? Track me that journey.
So it's been a 14-year journey for me, almost 15 years.
Okay.
So I came across radio when I was in varsity. I was at the University of Pretoria in 2010.
Yeah.
But prior to my coming across radio, I was studying mining engineering.
Oh.
Right? And it took me going to my vacation work to realize that, no, man, this is not for me. So one evening I was in the library, you know how we, engineering students study. So, I found myself at the library, so I was walking back to rest because I was staying at rest. And I came across these posters that were advertising for positions at the university radio station. And I applied. And, well, the rest is history. After about, 3 months, I flunked out. Yep. You know what they say, when the bug gets you, it really does get you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the truth, right? Because I think a lot of people don't. I remember my old radio boss, Greg, saying to me,
oh, yeah.
When
Greg.
the bug, and I started at, the youth radio station.
Sure.
And he said, when the bug gets you, the bug will get you.
No, it really does. It really does. And I mean, a lot of people were shocked when I made the transition from engineering to radio. And I mean, I spent about 6 months at, Tax FM.
Yeah.
And at the time it was predominantly rock and roll and Afrikaans. We're still doing analog radio. This before the digital age. And after 6 months, I thought, man, I'm like the best thing on radio now, And I thought, no, clearly I'm ready for the SABC. Remember, I'm 6 months into, my radio, university radio. So I remember at the time I took a taxi from Pitori, came to the SABC. I had my envelope there. I had my demo. It was on CD. I know nowadays they send MP3s. And I submitted my demo and I had left the radio station because I thought, no, I'm done here.
I'm good for the big time.
I'm good for the big time. 6 months into it. And I didn't get a call from, by the way, the person who hired me is the same person I sent my demo to.
Who rejected you the first time?
Who rejected me, yeah. I'm not even sure if they even listened to my demo. And then I spent about, a year just wondering what I was going to do with my life. And then I came to Joburg. Got an opportunity to study radio production at an institution called NEMISA, actually supported by the SABC. And whilst I was studying at NEMISA, got an opportunity to be on another campus radio station where I honestly feel I came into my own, UJFM. I did the breakfast show there for some time, groundbreaking breakfast show. Everybody was asking about these young ones before trending was a thing.
Yeah.
Hashtag UJFM breakfast was trending at the time. And I remember on World Radio Day, we had a legend, call us, just to find out who we are, just us, who is now my colleague, right?
Yeah.
So I was doing breakfast at the time. He was doing breakfast on Radio 2000. So, I spent about 5 years there. And then I was headhunted by Power FM to be one of their weekend music show presenters. And after 6 years at Power, Radio 2000 called. And I've been there for almost 2 years now. Beautiful journey it has been.
Wonderful. I love it. It's always fabulous for me when I listen to fellow broadcasters' stories, because there's a sense of bravado that everyone has, right? The fact that at 6 months into your very first radio anything on campus radio, you were like, give me commercial radio.
There you go.
Give me multi-million rand budgets. But I love that, because I think to some degree, this industry, I'll share my story one day about my 16-year-old self and my audaciousness, but another day. But it speaks to the bravado of creatives and also the kind of resilience that an industry like this requires.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because I feel that sometimes people always get caught up in the glitz and the glam. And I'm just looking at the time as I started this thought, and I'm thinking, because I don't want to interrupt you, let's go into an ad break and then we'll come back and continue the thought. It's just gone 2:20 on the Full Circle.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumapi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
TS Galaxy Queens are chasing a vital win to breathe closer to the top 3 teams. However, TUT Matatsanza want to have a good day in the office by grabbing full points. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. TS Galaxy Queens FC versus TUT Matatsanza Ladies FC on Sunday, 6 October at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sports on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
We're hanging out with A.B. DaCosta, radio and television presenter, and he's with our sister station downstairs, Radio 2000. He is a.k.a. Mr. Weekend. He owns the weekend between Friday and Sunday evenings with 3 shows that go out all throughout the weekend. And, of course, he's also just joined the Espresso Morning Show team, and we'll talk a bit more about television. But as we were getting into break, we're talking about the resilience that this industry requires, right? Which is something that's not spoken about until you get into it and you realize for every 2 steps forward, there's 10 steps backwards, and the ride is quite the roller coaster.
Sure.
How do you sort of set your mind around that as someone getting into the industry and then 15 years deep, because the journey never really changes as far as the grit and what's required of you.
I think it's very important to love what you do, right? So even when you experience those challenges, your love for the medium is going to push you through.
Yeah.
I remember when I was on campus radio, it took a while for me to get paid on radio.
Yeah.
It took a long time.
We don't talk about that enough too.
Because I was on campus radio, both the campus radio stations that I worked for. Not many people can also say that they worked for 2 campus radio stations. I was there for about 6 years, 5-6 years. And in those 5 or 6 years, I wasn't getting paid. And I remember I had a job at some point, right? I worked for a big broadcast company. And I was doing like a 6 to 6 shift, like 6 in the evening until 6 in the morning. But remember, I had my breakfast show in the morning, which was like 6 to 9. So I'd leave my work, which was in Randburg, 10 minutes before I was supposed to knock off. And I would drive like a maniac just so I could make it to studio on time. But prior to that, there were days when I would sleep in studio. I remember there was a time I was staying in Berea, you know, when I got to Joburg, you know, I'm a student. I don't have any money that's coming in. And when I joined UJ FM, I was doing a late night slot. And when I joined UJ, I didn't tell them that I was a radio presenter in Pretoria. You know, so I just went in there as a fresh guy, stood in the queue and auditioned, and luckily for me, I did get it. And the first show that I got was on the weekend, and it was between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. All right, and where I used to stay, because I was sponsored to study radio production, we had curfew. All right, so you had to be back by 8 p.m. or whatever. So I remember I used to walk from Berea to Auckland Park, which would take me about 45 minutes to an hour, and it's in the evening at that time.
Yeah.
All right, I get to, you know, Auckland Park, it's like 9 p.m. You know, I have to wait until my show, which starts at 1 a.m. And then, a lot of times after the show, you know, because I'm so tired, you know, I just spend, you know, the night there, and I'd walk back. So, but what drove me during those times was the passion that I had for the medium. You know, I always felt there was something special about me. I didn't know what it was, but I just felt like there's just something there, man. And I always say, you know, I feel like radio chose me because unlike most of my peers, I woke up to radio late. When I woke up to radio is when I got into radio, right? I never really actively listened to radio. So even when I hear about these legends, it's now, I mean, I know about them because I did some research on them. You know, I studied them. But I woke up to radio when I got to radio. I mean, I remember that one night when I was walking on campus and I saw those posters and something just drew me, you know, to applying. You really need to love what you do. Passion is not enough. I've worked with some of the most talented people in the industry, but they didn't make it into commercial radio, you know. So the people who make it are the people who are resilient and, you know, the people who really love this medium and have passion for it.
Do you think, to some degree, also not actively listening to radio, not being conscious of it, so you weren't, you know, fixated on the legends where other DJs will tell you about, you know, Radio Bob and this one and that one. It also, to some degree, helped you not to emulate yourself and model yourself against someone, so you weren't chasing the shadow of somebody who's left a legacy.
I like that, 100%. And, you know, the weird thing is, when I was younger, people used to comment on my voice. You know, I always had this weird voice for a long time, you know, until my late teens. I was afraid to talk to people because I sounded weird and people told me I sound weird. But for whatever reason, I always gravitated to, you know, oratory competition or speech contest. I mean, at some point I represented South Africa in an oratory competition that got me to go to Brazil in a Tri-Nation project. But, you know, back to what you're saying, you know, even when people would compare me to somebody, you know, it didn't make sense to me because I never really listened to people on radio until, like I said, I got into radio. So 100%, I think that helped me a lot. And to this day, honestly, I don't think that I sound like anybody in radio.
Yeah.
You know, and the same applies with TV as well. You know, when I was hired, I was like, okay, clearly they can also see something different that they haven't experienced on TV. So, 100%.
And now here you are. People are going to be waking up with you on the Expresso show on S3.
Yeah.
Exciting time.
It is. And I mean, it happened by chance. You know, I was being interviewed on Expresso, and I just liked the vibe. You know, and I remember at some point, you know, the presenter, Zanele, she's amazing.
Yes.
She asked me. Yeah, exactly. You know, she asked me, so where to? You know, what are your plans? And for whatever reason, you know, I was like, yo, TV. You know, if anybody who's watching and they have powers to put me on TV, here I am. I'm available. And I think a couple of months later, you know, they called me to be a guest presenter. You know, I enjoyed it. It was a little bit difficult at first because, I mean, on radio, nobody sees what you're doing in studio. You know, like there's a lot of movement that you can do, unlike on TV. But, I enjoyed it. And they called me for, you know, the second time and the third time. Actually, the second and the third time, they flew me to Cape Town. And when that happened, I was like, no, man, clearly these people must really like me, you know? So, and I just gave them the best me that I possibly, you know, could give them. And here we are now.
And here you are now.
We are going to be on S3.
Listen,
they out to
look at you. A face made for television. This much I tell you, in the truest sense of a face made for television. And it's a great team there at Expresso. A different energy and a different vibes, but a great team. The one thing I will say is, I think if you ever are to cut your teeth in television, that one is a great title to cut your teeth in, because they do a lot of things very different to standard TV vibes.
And I can understand why they would hire somebody like myself. I mean, this is my TV debut, you know? I mean, they're taking a chance on, you know, somebody you wouldn't normally see on a morning show like an Expresso, for example. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to believe I'm different.
And the way that he stutters lets you further know that even he doesn't believe the tea that he's trying to dish out. Let's take a quick pause for the headline news, and then we'll come back on the other side of this.
Well, the headlines at 2:30. I am Dino Mudaung. Good afternoon. Basic Education Minister Siviwe Kwahube says she's awaiting a response from National Treasury to see how to deal with the budget cuts and other infrastructure challenges facing the education sector. In other news, some of the victims of serial rapist Nkosinati Phakathi have expressed joy at the lengthy prison term handed to him today. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has paid tribute to Basotho Nation for their 200 years milestone since the country was founded by Moshoeshoe I. Today, Lesotho is also celebrating 58 years of independence. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SMS SAFM now on 41391. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
I mean, I was going to keep AB a little bit longer, but we have to get into Nalibali in a few moments. So we're going to wind it down. When did the knowing? Let's go back to that thought about the knowing at the beginning of our conversation.
I like that. I like how you think, Bridget.
When did the knowing sort of come? When did the moment become clear for you, Wuti? Okay.
Yeah.
Life.
Okay. So, you know, there are two knowings here. There's the knowing about wanting to do what I'm doing now, and there's the knowing about life. You know, some people call it a spiritual awakening of some sort. You know, I feel like when you go through stuff in life, you know, you wake up to your purpose somewhat, and you wake up to what life really is about, and you realize that, hey man, you know, we are here visiting. And also death is very much a part of it. You know, I know every time I mention death, people would say, oh, maybe that's so morbid or whatever. But for me, the thought of death is what woke me up to the fact that I need to be as present as possible, you know, because I don't know what tomorrow holds. And so many of us, we allow ourselves to be prisoners of not only the past, but the future as well. You get so caught up in, oh, I want this, I want that. You know, the one question that I've been getting with now this Expresso thing happening is, oh, you know, are you excited? Are you nervous? And I'm like, you know what? I'm just grateful that it's happening. I'm at a point in my life where I understand that everything happens for a reason, and I've gone through enough pain in my life to know that, you know, eventually all of it passes, whether, you know, good or bad. And I'm grateful that, you know, what I went through when I was younger, you know. So whenever something happens now, I know that it's happening for a reason. Even, you know, even though like, you know, an Expresso is a novelty for me, and yes, I will make mistakes here and there, but I do know that I am exactly where I am for a reason. And I think, to answer your question, I came to that knowing when I went through the most, and I made it through what I was going through, those afflictions that I made it, you know, that I was going through. So, yeah, I cannot pinpoint it exactly, but it happened some years ago.
I love that. And we love the fact that it sounds as though you sit quite often in conversation with yourself, retrospectively, and take stock of just the journey and the sense of being, which is a great thing. So my final question to you, see my producer there, the one with the blue, with the brown, he's waiting to cut this promo. So the final question is, when did you know that A.B. da Costa had made it? Your mama, I made it moment.
I can never get to that point. I can never, and I guess that's, the selling point about me. I can never get to a point where I say I made it. But the point I got to when I realized that I was popular now. When I went to the mall, I never had to worry about, people asking for pictures and all that stuff. I don't care about, how I look. I look decent, but yeah, nowadays I feel like I have to dress up even when I'm going to the mall. So I went inside the mall and I got stopped by 2 guys and 1 lady, and they asked for pictures, That's when I realized that, hey man, you know what? People know who you are now. And it happened mostly when I joined Radio 2000, and the TV has just added fuel to it. So yeah, but in terms of I made it, nah, I can never get to that point. I'll always be a people's person. That's who I am, and that's my selling point.
And the goal always shifts in this beautiful industry of ours. AB DaCosta, we appreciate the time. It was lovely getting to know you. So now when we see you in the corridor, we won't just walk past you.
I've been a fan for so long. I've been a fan for so. I was actually supposed to be at another meeting right now, but when I found out that I was going to be having a chat with you, I was like, oh man, this has to happen. Bridget Masinga, legend.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the kind words. We leave it there for this afternoon's Full Access. We're going to get into Nalibali now, which will run us a couple of moments, and then we'll come back and wrap it up.
Bafana and the Congolese troops are all looking for their second victory in Group K. Bafana Mzansi Africa say they will take full control at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, while the green, yellow and red want to raise their country's flag with 3 points. This is the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Experience the journey to Morocco, South Africa versus Congo Brazzaville on Friday, 11 October at 6:30 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
And welcome to Nali Bali. Have you ever seen a porcupine? Porcupines are large rodents with coats of sharp spine or quills that protect them against predation. Their fur ranges in color from brownish, yellow, black, and spot white highlights in their quills. While porcupines spend most of their time on the ground, they are good climbers and regularly climb trees in search of food and occasionally even build nests in trees. They are also good swimmers. Porcupines eat a wide range of plant material. Their diet changes seasonally. Porcupines are herbivores with varying vegetation diet that changes with the season and location. During the summer, they eat twigs, bugs, leaves, roots, tubers, grass, berries, fruit, inner bark, and other vegetation. Let's listen to today's story called Why Porcupines Search for Food at Night, written by Pumeza Ngobezana. But before we listen to today's story, let's all get up and dance! A long time ago, all the animals lived together in harmony, regardless of kind or size. It was a safe place to live because none of the animals ate meat. They all lived off wild plants and water. Every morning, a group of animals would set off to look for food while the rest stayed behind to look after the baby animals. In the evening, there would be a feast, accompanied by cheerful singing and dancing. It was a perfect world. But there was one thing that bothered the animals. The porcupines were gradually starting to change.
We'll collect our own food and eat alone.
The porcupines said. They all started having porcupines-only parties. And the other animals said,
You shouldn't isolate yourself. It's best to stay part of the group.
Back off!
Ow, your claws are hurting me.
I don't actually care.
Ow, you
Get away!
But this made the porcupines angry and they started attacking other animals with their sharp quills. Several animals asked the porcupines to stop their intimidating behavior. But in the end, everyone decided it was best to keep away from them. Lion said,
It's not worth it getting hurt while trying to help.
One day, Wise Tortoise, whom all the animals respected her because of her special powers, said,
Listen here, everyone. I think we should have an animal imbizo.
Wise Tortoise was older than most of the animals, and she saw visions of the future. This was a very special gift indeed. All the animals gathered around Wise Tortoise to hear what the future held for them. All the animals, except the porcupines, of course. Nobody even bothered to invite them. Porcupines had become so arrogant that now they had an exclusive patch of land that they called Porcupine World.
No other animal is allowed in Porcupine World.
They declared. At the imbizo, Wise Tortoise looked very serious as she said,
I see a sickness that will result in famine and death in the approaching winter months. It will attack mostly the elderly and the sick. But we can prevent this by collecting lots of food and water and staying indoors until the sickness passes.
There was a feeling of gloom amongst the animals. Wise Tortoise's predictions were never wrong. Soon the animals started preparing. One group collected food, another group collected water, a third group dug holes to store the food and keep it fresh. All the animals worked hard to prepare, except the porcupines. They carried on with their daily lives. When they saw the other animals working hard, they laughed and said,
Oh, why are they working so hard? It's really silly to work so hard for no reason.
Gradually, the season changed. The air became cooler and the sun weaker. One day, Wise Tortoise said,
Animals, it is time. Time to stay indoors as the sickness is now among us.
The animals wanted to be safe, so they stayed in hollows, burrows, dens, and caves. They were now officially in lockdown. However, in Porcupine World, everyone continued to move around as usual.
Why are all the animals staying indoors?
The porcupines asked each other as they took their offspring to play outside and went on to search for food. Soon the porcupines caught the sickness. They infected each other and gradually started to die, leaving their families and young ones behind.
It's the great toes punishing us for being so mean to the other animals.
Some of the porcupines said,
If only we had remained together with them.
Cried others.
We would have known about the sickness. We too could have stayed indoors and been safe.
But the porcupines were too proud to seek help. Eventually, the porcupines found a cave to live in.
Okay, I think only a few of us should collect food and water each day. And when we return,
We should drop off the food and then isolate from the rest for the few days. In that way, we won't affect each other,
said one of the porcupines. Everyone agreed, and gradually, the porcupines stopped becoming ill and dying. In time, life steadily went back to normal for all the other animals. Hope replaced gloom. But after the tragedy, the porcupines were too ashamed to see other animals. They decided that instead of getting food during the day, like the other animals did, they would wait for everyone to fall asleep and only go out at night. They also decided to try to be more kind. And so to this day, porcupines search for food at night, and they only use their quills to attack when they're in danger. And so we come to the end of another Nali Bali story time. Today's story was called Why Porcupines Search for Food at Night, written by Pumeza Ngobezana. Did you know that reading and telling stories to children at home can help them do better at school? If you want free stories to read to your children or for your children to enjoy on their own, visit Nali Bali website www.nalibali.org or Mobi site www.nalibali.mobi. You will find stories in 11 South African languages, as well as tips for reading and sharing stories with your children to grow their potential. Also look out for the bilingual Nali Bali Reading for Enjoyment supplements with great children's stories and activities available in newspapers. Nali Bali, it starts with a story.
And that was Nali Bali. Our children's programming has moved to the other side of 2:30. So you can diarize that for all the little ones. We thought it better positioned after they in the car coming back from school. I get so confused now, by the way, and I think probably because I don't have kids. So I get so confused because I was driving this morning. Where I live on my street is a school. And I thought, so I can gauge the traffic when I'm going to the gym. I know to bob and weave, so I avoid the school drop-offs. But I was looking this morning, casting my eyes ahead, and I thought, well, there's no traffic. And then I looked and I was like, oh, okay, I drove past the school and the gate was closed. And then in my mind, I'm going, but it's the beginning of October. Where are the children? And weren't they just on vacation last week? Are they on midterm vacation again? I was very confused, but I've realized that within the context of South Africa, you need to have a child in order for you to understand school holidays, because I get so confused between the private schools, the O-level schools, the government schools, and who's on and who's off and who's midterming. It's a lot. It's a lot. We just appreciate that, when you guys do go on a bit of a break, we also have a little less traffic on the road. So Auntie Bridget, thanks you for being at home if you are at home today. As we wrap up the show from our end now, we're going to be touching base with a South African creative, Thabo Maketa Kwenana, founder of Thabo Maketa. And Thabo is participating in the 2024 the Watershed Design Lab, and they welcomed the new cohort in September. And this cohort of brand owners is going to be participating in the program until September 2025. And Thabo is here to tell us more about, the program, as well as the work that she does through her label, Thabo Maketa. How are you doing, Thabo?
Hi, Bridget. I am very well, and how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's lovely to get to speak to you again. I think the last time we saw each other was at a Threads initiative that I was a part of. Yes.
Yes. A while ago, I was saying to my producers, when I saw the name, I was like, oh, I've had the pleasure of wearing some of Thabo's incredible designs a couple of years ago. And so much has happened since. A lot has happened. Tell me about, and I want to reflect on the journey, but before we even get there, let's talk a little bit about the Watershed Design Lab. So this is a launching pad, from what I understand, for emerging designers, and it's been around since like 2024, or emerging brands. It's been around since 2021, my apologies. Tell me a bit more about it. Give me some context.
So I think the design lab is not just for emerging designers or brands, because there are quite a few established brands within this space. Even for myself, I've been around since 2009. But as a creative, to try get into retail space, it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's part of the program in terms of giving us the space as a cohort, and then also just in terms of training, in terms of, like, how do you manage a retail space? How do you manage your stock? It's very different from, like, someone ordering online and then you make the item and you send it off to them. So really this initiative focuses on, we've got part of 5 other amazing ladies that are in this space.
Yeah.
And the opportunity is stunning because you're right here at the watershed, at the VNA, and the clients and the customers that walk through here. There's also a lot of international customers coming in, which, I mean, it's huge for your brand to be able to have access to that kind of clientele.
And very valuable training and development, I would think, Thabo, right? Because ultimately for most designers, even those who, like yourself, who do bespoke garments, who target a particular aesthetic and a particular clientele, in part somewhere in the dream, I would think, based on the conversations I have with every designer, is ultimately a dream to have a brick and mortar. Whether you call it a studio, whether you call it a store, whether you call it a boutique, but some place where clients can come and interface with your garments, your brand, your textiles.
So that's the thing, like when you talk about a boutique and a studio, that is very different because that's someone coming into your workspace where you create and make the items. So when you're talking about retail on this side, you're talking about... it's more than just like creating and designing. We're looking at the numbers, we're looking at stock sheets. So you're right about the training in that aspect. Because if you don't get retail right, if you don't get something as simple as the visuals at the front of the store correct and people don't walk in, you immediately lose sales. The way you greet a customer when you get in, if you don't get it right, you lose sales. Whereas if I invite you into my studio, you're walking into my home and my space. It's very different. It's a lot more casual. And a lot of the times it's people who researched you and they know about you and they come to you. Whereas retail as well, it's people who just walk past, and that's the moment you have to make that impression. And if you make it, you get the sale. If you don't, they walk on to the next store.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense what you're saying. Makes perfect sense. Let's talk about your brand, Thabo Maketa, because it is quite different. It does speak a particular language. Give our folks some history. You've been around now since 2009.
Since 2009. So 2009 when I started, really, I was doing more of your matric dance dresses, your farewell dresses, more tailored items. But for me, it was always about creating something that was tied to culture. Because I always felt like if a garment is made with culture, it becomes timeless. So fast forward, I started using the Basotho blankets. That's my heritage. I was born in Lesotho. That's where I come from. And my thinking was to say, why can't we make culture part of the everyday? So it was taking those blankets, cutting them into these beautiful capes, beautiful coats, and there was a lot of really positive response. But at the time when I started going and approaching boutiques and other stores, retail outlets, to say, hey, this is a product I'm making, please put it in your space, then the comments were, it's too loud, it's too bold, it's too African. So interestingly enough, a lot of our sales, we used to get them off from your Facebook, from your social medias. Otherwise, then it was those big market opportunities like your Design and Dada, jazz festivals, etc., etc. So the journey of like putting my culture out there has not been the easiest. But I think because, I stuck to my guns, what I found interesting was after I launched the Basotho blankets, the capes and the coats and the jackets in 2013, come 2018, are people not copying the item? Is China not copying? And it's there downtown and everywhere. So it's such a fascinating world to be in design sometimes, especially when you have a strong aesthetic like I do, where people don't want you and they reject you and you can't get into their retail stores. But the opposite is that the public wants you and they love you so much, to the point that China are coming through and actually even producing replicas of your work. So it's been quite a crazy journey, but it still gets exciting. From the Basotho blankets, we've now also developed my own textile. It's 100% cotton, and it's the print on it. It's in honor of my grandmother, Nkunu Dikeledi. So we actually had launched that at SA Fashion Week in April, and now we've launched another textile as well, which is 100% wool fabric as well. The blankets you'll see, it's quite stiff. It's quite a constructed item.
Yeah.
So these fabrics, at least it's more flowy. We're able to make summer garments and lighter garments from that. So then at least our customer has a beautiful range from the Basotho blanket, which is quite bold, very colorful. The Dike ladies are more toned down, natural colors. And then our wool houndstooth, we are still developing that. I just showcased it last week at SA Fashion Week as well.
It's a double-edged sword, the business of fashion, because, as you say, you build something that's quite unique. Your blood, sweat, and tears goes into it. You face the roller coaster and a gauntlet of rejection, but love from the consumer, only for then somebody to come in and imitate it. And cut pricing, costing, quality, and all the rest of it. But piggy-banking on all of your hard work.
On the visual,
It is such a crazy, crazy industry. And it's hard to swallow that old adage when they say imitation is the greatest form of flattery, when you go, not quite.
If it didn't affect my bank account, maybe. But when you start touching on my bank account, then no, there's no flattery at all.
No flattery at all. But I mean, incredible, just how far you've come in the last couple of years, and how you're also managing to evolve your offering with your brand, Thabo Maketa. And are you seeing more of an uptake now? Because I think, 2009, South Africans weren't really into celebrating culture as boldly and as regularly as we do by way of fashion, right? It used to be a special occasion thing. Unlike, for instance, our Nigerian
casual
sisters.
Friday.
There we go. The rest of the continent wears culture like they wear everything else. But I can imagine it now places your brand at an interesting intersection, because you've built it and you were ahead of building it, and now people have caught up to the vision.
So I think, in the terms of people have caught up to that vision, it's the reason why as well we took a further step to say, okay, we need to start developing our own textiles. And also the other thing about when you develop your own textiles, you have control in terms of the quantity of what is real wool, what is not, and the actual fabric that goes into the garment. What I've kind of realized with South Africa, I hate to say it, but we take... when we see what's going on outside, then we'll take it in. So even for myself, it's only when I went to Vancouver Fashion Week, only then did people locally start paying me better attention, and then some boutiques were willing to have me in their store. And we see that a lot when Afrocentric becomes a fashion trend across the globe. Then South Africans are willing to, pick up that baton and say, yes, I'm proud of my culture and so on. I don't know if it's also part of that thing where someone says, a prophet is never praised in his own hometown. Because ke Mosotho and ke hlaisa dikobo tsa Basotho. So to a Mosotho person, it's like, bruh, it's a blanket. It's our everyday Hanan to special. There's nothing, extra for it for them. Whereas when we look at the overseas customers and clients, they're very fascinated by it. They want to hear the stories. They want to know about the culture. And I think that's the thing about my brand. It was always sharing the story of my heritage, sharing the story of my culture. So I do wonder sometimes locally the uptake, we don't really celebrate heritage and culture as much. I still feel like, you go to the cities and it's the German car and the LV shoes and slowly but surely we do have powerful brands coming out of South Africa. But again, they have to be on the international stage before you wear them with your6 shoes,
I get you.
So and we've attended conferences in Nigeria and Ethiopia and all these other African countries, and the mentality is very different.
Yeah.
It's this way, that way. But definitely, since I started, we take a lot more pride in our culture and our heritage. and not just buying it from Chinatown, but actually supporting local artisans who are producing those things. So there has been a big shift, but there is still more that we can do to celebrate our culture.
Absolutely.
I bumped into a lady in
We have
Rose
to
Bank
leave
the
it
other
there.
day.
We have
Oh,
to leave
sorry,
it there
sorry.
for today. But we wish you the
Apologies.
very best of luck. No need to apologize. You are passionate about your brand and equally as passionate about the industry. That was Thabo Maketa Kwenana, who is, of course, the founder and creative director of Thabo Maketa. And you can find her at the Watershed Design Lab at the V&A Waterfront. That store is open every single day between 10 and 6 o'clock. That is it from myself and my team. We thank you so much for choosing to be in conversation with us. John is standing by for Ashraf. Inshallah, God willing, we do it again.
CAF President Dr. Patrice Motsepe said the exponential growth and global competitiveness of football in Africa has resulted in substantial interests from major African and international broadcasters in African football. SABC has been participating competitively in the CAF media rights bids. CAF welcomes them as partners, joining a number of CAF's media rights holders. We are committed to ensuring that CAF's competitions, including its broadcast products, are world-class.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
You and I have a country to build, difficult conversations to have, solutions to find, and stories to tell. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 p.m. to midnight.
Top stories: Education Department awaits Treasury on budget cuts, and Lesotho marks its Independence Day. Good afternoon. With the news, I am Dino Mutaung. Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwahube says she's awaiting a response from National Treasury to see how to deal with the budget cuts and other infrastructure challenges facing the education sector. Gwahube was briefing the media following a visit to Gauteng as part of her national listening and learning tour. The visit focuses on critical issues affecting the education sector, including overcrowding in schools, safety and infrastructure challenges. The minister has visited 3 other provinces so far: Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga. Gwahube says they have submitted their findings to National Treasury.
They are experiencing a lot of pressure when it comes to infrastructure and infrastructure delivery. So infrastructure becomes a big problem for us. And other provinces and more rural provinces where we were in KwaZulu-Natal, things like scholar transport are a big thing. Things like service delivery, things that are not our core business but affect the work that we do. With regards to the meeting with the Treasury, we are waiting from Finance to be able to advise on when we can have that sit down with the 9 MECs from Education and the 9 MECs from the provincial treasuries.
Some of the victims of serial rapist Nkosinathi Phakathi have expressed